So I went to Skip You Lee. I'm going to provide you with a short clip about what we're studying in Chapter 18, the passive voice. Hopefully you've been working on it this week. We will meet this week on May 17th, so hopefully you'll have all your work done by then. All right, so real quick, we had a little bit of a chance last class to quickly go over the passive voice, but I just want to take a few minutes to remind you of a couple of things and hopefully build on what you're reading in your chapter and the lecture notes, okay, that I sent out. All right, so what I put up here is video and vedere. I just put the first two principal parts of this particular verb because that's what we're working off of as we build the present system passive voice, okay? Later on in Chapter 19, when we learn to build the perfect system passive voice, we'll work with the last two principal parts. All right, so what I put up here, we always want to go from something that we know, and we know the active voice of video. So I just put up here something you already know, the present imperfect and future tense, video, vides, videt, I see, I do see, I am seeing. Remember, we have a variety of translations for the present tense active voice, right? Then we have videbam, I was seeing, used to see, videbo, I will see. Okay, and I actually just put up the singular persons, first and second, third person, because of course you guys know the plural, and I just didn't have enough room on the board here. What I did want to do is put the singular and the plural number for the passive voice, because these are new endings, new personal suffixes you guys have to learn for the passive voice. Over here, the active voice personal suffixes, of course, are ost, mustus, nt, which you guys have been working with all year, but now you'll need to memorize the passive voice personal suffixes, okay? So this is Chapter 18, and what you'll memorize is ar, ris, ter, mer, mini, nter. So again, what is it? That's the personal suffixes of the passive voice, all right? We are looking at the present tense, the imperfect tense, and the future tense, so the present system of the passive voice, all right? So how do you build that? Well, since it's built in the present system, we still use the same root or base from the second principal part, our present active infinitive here, just like we did over here with vide. Okay, but now we're going to put on the aris, ter, mer, mini, inter instead of the ost, mustus, nt. Okay, so we end up with videor, which is I am seen, and we'll talk a little bit more about the translation of the passive voice in just a moment. But right now I want you to be focusing on the forms. Okay, so we have videor, videris. Notice we still have the stem vowel E in there, of course. Videter, videmer, videmini, videnter. Notice the prevalence of the consonant R. Okay, so whenever you come across a verb now with R in it, you should hopefully think, oh, passive voice. The only place you won't see the R, of course, is in the second person plural here, because it's mini, M-I-N-I. Okay, so again, very regular here. We have our BA for our imperfect tense, and again, we just put on our R, ris, ter. And here we have, we use our BO, BI. Notice I boxed here in green is the only anomaly in the future tense of the passive voice. Instead of BI, which you would expect, because it is BI in the rest of the conjugation, and then BU, just like you would expect over here in the active voice. But in second person singular, it's an E. So that's the only thing you need to be aware of that's a little bit different. Okay, and I think they have it bolded in your text, page 147. All right, so these are the forms of how to build the present system passive voice. All right, now let's look a little bit at the actual translation of the passive voice and what that means. I'm going to go ahead and erase active over here and leave up the passive. So we can talk a little bit about what it actually means to have something in the passive voice. So first of all, let me just remind you guys, last week we talked a little bit about the active versus the passive voice. Now this is just really going to go to English grammar, all right? So what is the active versus passive voice? All right, so first of all, in the active voice, the subject does the action, okay? And the action actually is received by a direct object. So we have something like this. The boy loves the girl. Okay, so we have our subject. We have our verb in the active voice. How do I know that's in the active voice? Well, you'll see it clearly when I put it in the passive voice, how it's different. Okay, different than the passive voice. And then we have a direct object here, some object that is receiving the action of the verb. Now, the verb has to be a transitive verb in order to put it in the passive voice. What's a transitive verb? It's a verb that has action going across to a receiver. Okay? So here we have loves, the action's going across to the girl. All right? So this is active voice. Okay? Now, let's not change the syntax or the meaning of the sentence. Let's not change the tense. A lot of people get tense and voice mixed up, right? We're in the present tense here. So let's keep it in the same present tense. Let's keep it the boy loving the girl, but let's put it in passive voice. So how does that happen? Well, basically the formula is to take the direct object, make that your subject. We have to put our verb in the passive voice. Now, what is that? Passive voice. I'm going to say this a couple of times. You'll hear it over the next couple of weeks and all next year. Well, not all next year, but chapter 19 when we hit the perfect system passive voice. Passive voice is always a combination of a to-be verb and the past participle form of the verb. That is how you will always know you're in the passive voice. And there's one other little trick that I'll clue you in on in just a minute. So what does that mean? That means I'm going to use is here because I'm in the present tense. And I'm going to use the past participle form of the verb. Now, what does that mean? Well, when you guys study English grammar, you know you have all your verb charts, right? And you have verbs listed in usually, I put it down here, present tense, past, this is in English, and past participle. Participle. Okay? So for a verb like love, it would be, you would see on your chart, love, loved, loved. Okay, and you might think, well, why do I have to put loved twice? It's the same word. Well, regular verbs end in ed for past and past participle, but look at a verb like this one up here. See, saw, seen. It's a whole different word in the past participle, okay? And again, the past participle is what you're using in the passive voice. So here, this loved is this loved, not this one, okay? And you can see that if I was using the verb see, and I want to say the boy sees the girl, I would have to say the girl is seen. I got to use the past participle. To be verb plus past participle equals passive voice. Okay, now what do I do with the boy? I put the boy basically over here. It becomes the object of the preposition by. The girl is loved by the boy. Now, did I change the meaning? No. Did I change the tense? No. Did I change the voice? Yes. Okay? Because now the action is coming back on the girl instead of the boy doing the action. But the syntax is the same. The boy's still doing the loving. All right? Look how much clunkier it is, though. That's why typically in writing we want to stay out of passive voice. Now, there are some specific times to use passive voice, and I'll go over that a little bit on Wednesday. We won't go into that now. But your writing teachers tell you to stay out of passive voice because look how clunky it is. You actually have to use a to-be verb. You all of a sudden now have a prepositional phrase. This is much clearer. All right? Okay, just a couple more examples. What if I put this in past tense? The boy loved the girl. Okay? All right, so active voice, boy's doing the actions in the past, but now in the past tense, but now in the passive voice, how would I put that? The girl was loved by the boy. Notice I didn't change the past participle. It's still loved. So how do I know it's in the past tense? By the to-be verb. Okay, and if I was going to put this in future, it would be the boy will love the girl for active voice. And the passive would be the girl will, right, future tense, be, there's our to be, loved, past participle, by the boy. So the key is to be verb plus past participle. Now, a fun little clue to make sure that you are in the passive voice, and I saw this on a particular meme by another English teacher, is try to insert by zombies. I know it's kind of funny, with the verb phrase. If it works, you know you're in passive voice. So let's try it. The girl was loved. by zombies. Funny, but yes, it works. The boy loved by zombies. That doesn't work. You know, this is active voice. The girl is loved by zombies. Works. The boy loves by zombies. Doesn't work. So by zombies is always kind of a fun thing to kind of think to yourself, am I using passive voice? Take your verb phrase, right? Your verb phrase is always your group of words that's a main verb and any helping verbs. There are to be verbs, a helping verb here. And if by zombies works, then you know you're in passive voice. So it's kind of fun. All right, so how would I translate this into Latin? Well, the boy loves the girl. That would be what? Puer, amat, puellam, right? But if I have to put it in the passive voice, puella, now I've got to use is loved, okay? So I've got C over here built in the passive voice, but is loved, and the passive voice would be what? It would be your, it would be amateur, right? Amateur, because I need the third person singular. Amateur, by the boy. Now, what do I do with that? In the chapter, it gives you a new ablative use, all right? Ablative of agent. This is an ablative of agent, meaning the agent, boy here, is doing the loving. It's coming back on the girl, the action. So I would use the preposition a or ab, and then put boy, of course, in the ablative. So there's a new ablative use for you to learn. All right? Okay. Let's do a couple of translations. I'm going to have my videographer stop it for just a moment.